At 16, I discovered my mom was claiming public assistance under my name for 3 years while she was starving me. So, I turned her in for fraud and the state stripped her of everything. My name's Kevin. I'm 16, and I live in a small town in West Virginia, the kind of place where half the buildings are boarded up, and the closest thing to excitement is the gas station that sells both bait and pizza. Yeah, that kind of town. I was put into foster care super young, like, so young I don't have a single memory of my biological mom. I bounced around a bit, and honestly, most of the homes were fine. My last family had a small farm, and I actually liked it there. I learned how to work, earned a little money babysitting and doing chores, and over the years, I saved up a decent amount. I bought myself a laptop, some personal things, items I'd collected. When you grow up in other people's houses, having something that nobody can just reassign to another kid, that's a huge deal. Then, when I was about 12, my mom, Cheryl, started reaching out. Calling the foster family, sending letters, saying all the right things. How she'd gotten her life together, how she wanted me back, how things were going to be different. My foster family was cautious, but they could see how badly I wanted it. I mean, she's my mom. What kid doesn't want that to work? The state had to sign off, of course. Home visits, background checks, the whole Department of Health and Human Resources process. Part of the reunification deal was that DHR set up a benefits case tied to me. Cash assistance loaded onto an EBT card to help cover my food, clothing, school supplies, everything. The card was technically in my name, since I was the reason for the case, but Cheryl was given possession of it as my guardian. She was supposed to use it for my needs. She had the card and the PIN. And I didn't even know the thing existed. Nobody told me. I was 12. Looking back, that's where the system failed me. They handed a woman who'd already lost custody once an unsupervised debit card loaded with her son's money and just said, "Good luck." No check-ins, no receipts. Just gave the money to the person most likely to steal it. It was a setup. I moved in with her right before I turned 13. I was so excited. I thought, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe I finally get to have a normal life with my actual mom. The house was small. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. Cheryl had a boyfriend named Wade who lived there too. Big dude, quiet, not the loud, aggressive type, which honestly made him creepier. He'd just stare at you from across the room like he was calculating something. Never raised his voice. Just existed in the background like a piece of furniture that could snap your arm. There was also my older sister, Bree. She was 20 and didn't live there, but she was over constantly. Basically, Cheryl's shadow. Anything Cheryl said, Bree backed up. Anything Cheryl needed done, Bree handled it. She'd been under Cheryl's roof her whole life, never left the orbit. For the first couple months, things were fine. Not great, but fine. Cheryl cooked dinner sometimes, asked me about school, let me set up my room. I even started to feel stupid for being nervous about the move. Then she started with the money stuff. It started small. $20 for groceries, $40 for the electric bill, $60 because Wade's car needed gas. Every request came with a guilt trip about how she took me in when nobody else wanted me, and how she was sacrificing everything to give me a home. I was 13. I didn't know any better, so I kept handing over cash from what I'd saved. And every time she'd promised to pay me back. She never did. Not once, not a dollar. By the time I was 14, I had basically burned through everything I'd saved. Hundreds of dollars gone. And the worst part was the food situation. You'd think with someone collecting government benefits, there'd be food in the house. Nah. The fridge was empty more often than not. When there was food, it was her food or Wade's. I'd come home from school starving, and there'd be literally nothing I was allowed to touch. One time, I ate a pack of crackers from the pantry, and Cheryl acted like I'd committed a federal crime. Screamed at me for 20 minutes about how I didn't contribute enough to be eating her food. Her food, bought with benefits she got because of me. I started eating 1 meal a day at school, and that was it. My best friend, Tate, was the only reason I didn't lose it. This kid had been my ride or die since 7th grade. Total goofball, built like a scarecrow, drove his mom's old station wagon like he was in an action movie, and had zero filter. But he noticed, before anyone else, that I was always hungry. His mom started packing extra food in his lunch. A second sandwich, extra granola bars, stuff like that. She never said anything directly to me about it, but she knew. And Tate would just slide the extra food across the table at lunch like it was nothing. Here, I'm not eating this. Even though we both knew his mom packed it specifically for me. Without that family, I probably would have ended up in the hospital for real. When I turned 15, I got a part-time job at the gas station on Route 9, the one run by this old guy named Gil, who'd been there since the dinosaurs. I pumped gas, stocked shelves, cleaned bathrooms, mopped floors. Gil paid me cash under the table, which was fine by me. I was making about $150 a week. Not much, but for a 15-year-old, that felt like a fortune. Cheryl found out within a week. I still don't know how. Actually, wait. Yeah, I do. I think Bree saw me leaving in the gas station shirt and told her, because that's exactly the kind of thing Bree would do. Girl couldn't hold a secret if you stapled it to her hands. Suddenly, Cheryl had a whole new list of expenses I needed to contribute to. Rent, water, internet, phone bill, a new tire for Wade's car. Something was always conveniently broken or overdue the exact week I got paid. I gave her money because I didn't know what else to do. If I said no, she'd scream. Not yelling, full-on screaming like someone was pulling her apart. Then she'd switch to the guilt trip, the "you owe me for raising you" lecture, which is hilarious considering she raised me for exactly 0 years before I moved in. But when you're 15 and this is your mom and you just want things to be normal, you hand over the money and you don't say anything. Here's where it gets really messed up though. I didn't know the full picture at the time. I only pieced it together later after everything came out. But Cheryl was pulling in about $500 a month in cash assistance through DHR tied to my case, plus around $350 a month in food stamps. That's $850 a month in benefits that were supposed to go toward my needs. Housing, clothes, school supplies, food, things I never saw a single dollar of. She'd even told DHR that I was paying her rent so she could squeeze out more from the system. Complete lie. No agreement, no receipt, nothing. She was using the fact that I existed to milk every program she could. And on top of collecting those benefits, she was selling the food stamps, straight up trading them for cash. She'd let other people use her card at the store in exchange for money. Some random person would show up at the house, get the card, go to the store, come back with cash, and leave. I watched it happen twice in the same day once. The whole thing was running like a small business out of our living room. Meanwhile, I'm wearing the same 3 shirts to school and eating granola bars from Tate's lunch. Make it make sense. The funniest part is that Cheryl had been on SSI for years. She claimed she couldn't work because of arthritis and fibromyalgia. And look, I'm not saying those aren't real conditions, but this woman could rearrange the entire living room when she was mad, carry a week's worth of groceries from the car in one trip, and shove me into a wall without breaking a sweat. Her disabilities were very selective. Apparently, they flared up when there was work to be done and disappeared when there was money to be spent. I wanted to save up for a used car. That was my whole plan. Instead, every paycheck was getting eaten alive by Cheryl's emergency expenses that were always conveniently the exact amount I just earned. Like clockwork, I'd come home with $150, and suddenly the water bill was exactly $150. One time I tried to hide some cash in my room, stuffed $200 in a sock in my dresser. It lasted 3 days before she found it. She didn't even try to be sneaky about it. Just came into my room, went straight to the dresser, grabbed it, and walked out like she was picking up her own laundry. When I confronted her, she said it was household funds and that I was being selfish. I was being selfish for hiding my own money that I earned at my own job. Bree was there for that conversation, and she just sat on the couch nodding like Cheryl was dropping life-changing wisdom. That was Bree's whole role. Professional nod. Human yes button. Anytime Cheryl and I had a disagreement, Bree materialized out of nowhere to back her up. I stopped hiding money after that. Just started spending whatever I could before Cheryl got to it. I bought myself some jeans that actually fit and a decent pair of shoes. Bought some food I could keep in my school locker, too. Cheryl found out and lost her mind. According to her, spending money on jeans was disrespectful. Buying myself food was ungrateful. I was the worst son on the planet because I had the audacity to buy shoes that didn't have holes in them. I don't know how to even describe what living with Cheryl was like. Imagine someone charging you rent to live in your own nightmare and then getting mad when you buy yourself shoes. March is when everything blew up. There was a youth employment program run through the county DHR office that helped teenagers get legit jobs with actual paychecks and tax paperwork. To apply, I needed my birth certificate and my social security card, which Cheryl kept locked away like they were classified government intel. She controlled every document with my name on it. When I asked for them, she immediately got weird. Said I didn't need those things, that I should be grateful she was holding on to them for me. She dragged it out for about 30 minutes, making me stand there and repeat myself like I was begging, which I think was the whole point. She finally handed them over and started screaming at me for being an ungrateful brat. Standard Tuesday stuff. I grabbed them and left. While I was at the DHR office filling out the program paperwork, the woman processing my application, Chloe, pulled up my case in the system using my social security number. She needed to verify some things. But while she was in there, she stopped scrolling and got this look on her face. She asked me if I'd been using the cash assistance on my EBT card. I literally said, "The what?" She looked at me confused. She explained that the EBT card the state set up when I moved in with Cheryl, the one I never knew about, had been getting about $500 a month loaded onto it for over 3 years. And Cheryl had been the one using it the entire time. I just sat there doing math in my head. 3 years. Roughly $500 a month. That's over $18,000. $18,000 that was meant for me. That I never saw a single cent of because Cheryl had the card and the PIN this entire time. $18,000. Think about that for a second. For a kid who'd been bounced around the system his whole life, that wasn't just money. That was a used car. That was 3 years of clothes, food, school supplies. That was safety. That was a future. And it was all gone, swallowed by the very person who was supposed to be his guardian. And this kid was walking around in the same 3 shirts, eating charity granola bars at lunch. Cheryl didn't just take his money, she took everything that money was supposed to do for him and left him with absolutely nothing. That's just messed up. Chloe's tone changed after I told her I'd never seen the card. She pulled up the account, issued me a replacement card right there since my name was on the account, and helped me set a new PIN. She told me not to let Cheryl have access to it again. She said she was going to flag the case for review. I walked out of that office with the new card, and I was shaking. I went home that evening already knowing it was going to be bad. But I was not prepared for what I walked into. My room was destroyed. Clothes ripped out of every drawer and thrown everywhere. Closet emptied onto the floor. My laptop was gone. Christmas gifts missing. I'm guessing Cheryl realized something was up when she tried to use the old card and it got declined. Either way, she'd torn my room apart. Cheryl was in the living room watching TV like nothing happened. Wade was in his recliner. Neither of them even looked at me when I walked in. I told her I wanted my stuff back. She acted confused for about 10 seconds, then dropped the act and started throwing my things at my bedroom door, not handing them to me, throwing them. Then she demanded I give her the new EBT card since she keeps everyone's cards in the house. I said no. That's when Wade got up from his chair. He didn't say anything at first, just walked over slow, stood about 6 inches from my face, looking down at me. He just got close and spoke low. "You want to think real careful about what you're doing right now, kid?" I tried to keep my voice steady. "It's my card. My name's on it. Your name's on a lot of things. Doesn't mean they belong to you. It literally does. That's how names work." He didn't like that. I tried to hold my ground, but when a grown man who outweighs you by 100 pounds is in your face and you're 16, your body makes decisions your brain didn't agree to. My hands started shaking and my chest got tight. I get PTSD from stuff that happened when I was younger, and confrontation sends me into full panic mode. Cheryl kept screaming behind him. "Give me the card. Give me the PIN." She called me just like my deadbeat father. Worthless. Garbage for buying jeans instead of giving her every cent I had. She was hitting every button she knew I had. Wade grabbed my arm hard enough that I could feel each finger individually, pulled me toward the kitchen, and told me to give Cheryl what she wanted or I was going to regret it. When I tried to pull away, he shoved me into the wall. My shoulder hit first, then the back of my head. He took the card out of my pocket while I was still trying to figure out which direction was up. Cheryl went to the store, tried to use the card, came back furious because the pin didn't work. She was practically vibrating with rage, stormed right up to me while Wade blocked the hallway. "You changed it. You put a new pin on this thing. The lady at the office set it up. It's my card. The lady at the office doesn't live here." "I do." She was getting closer. "You think you're smart? You think you're slick?" "I think it's my money." She looked at Wade. That was all it took. He got in my face again. He hit me twice. Open hand, but it didn't matter. The second one caught my ear and everything rang for a few seconds. He told me I had one chance to give up the pin. I gave it to him. I know. But when your brain is in full survival mode and there's a dude who just smacked you twice standing over you and your mom is screaming behind him and nobody in this house is on your side, you don't think about principles. You think about not getting hit again. Listen, when a grown man nearly twice your size just smashed your head against a wall and your own mother is screaming for him to do it again, judgment goes out the window. Survival kicks in. This kid did what he had to do. Period. Someone next door must have heard the screaming because the cops showed up about 20 minutes later. Cheryl and Wade immediately flipped the script. According to them, I was the manipulative one, the liar, the whole problem. The cops looked at me, looked at them, and basically shrugged. I showed them where Wade hit me and tried explaining that she took my EBT card. They didn't care. Small town cops, man. Wade apparently had a reputation that made people think twice about pushing things. So, they wrote nothing down, asked nobody any real questions, and left. After the cops bounced, Cheryl stood in the kitchen doorway with her arms crossed like she just won something. "Your little friend Tate, he's banned. Don't even think about bringing him here." I didn't say anything. "And you got a curfew now. 6 o'clock. You're not running around this town making me look bad. My class doesn't end till 4. It takes over an hour to walk home." She shrugged. "Sounds like your problem. And one more thing, if you walk out that door, don't bother coming back ever." So I left. Her terms, not mine. I texted Tate, and he picked me up within 20 minutes. Didn't even ask what happened. Pulled up in the wagon, took one look at my face and said, "Get in. We're leaving." Dude just showed up when it mattered. He drove me to a youth shelter about 30 minutes from town, a place for teenagers in dangerous situations who had nowhere else to go. It was clean and quiet, and nobody was going to hit me. So, that was already a massive upgrade. I met a guy there named Glenn, one of the advocates who worked with kids coming out of bad homes. Mid-40s, calm energy, looked like he'd heard every horror story in the book and still showed up to work every day. He sat down with me that first night and just listened. I told him everything. Cheryl, the money, Wade, the EBT card, the cops doing nothing. I talked for almost an hour straight, and he didn't interrupt once. Glenn didn't look shocked. He looked tired in a way that told me my story wasn't even the worst thing he'd heard that week. He told me the shelter had a transitional living program, basically a small apartment unit where I could live on my own with some support until I got stable. I qualified. They got me set up within a few days. I finally had my own place. Small, nothing special. But the door had a lock and only I had the key. That alone felt like a massive victory. But getting out of Cheryl's house didn't mean things got better right away. Not even close. The morning after I left, I called DHR and reported the card stolen. They canceled it and rushed me a new one. When it arrived and I checked the balance online, I could see the transaction history going back months. Every swipe, every ATM withdrawal, every store purchase, and right there near the top, a withdrawal of $260 at 5 a.m., the morning after I left, before the card got canceled. Cheryl and Bree had gone to an ATM before the sun came up and drained almost everything left on it. 5 o'clock in the morning. My own mother, setting an alarm to rob me before I could wake up and stop her. And she brought my sister along for the ride. Real family bonding right there. She didn't lose a son, she lost a resource. Once the new card arrived, the old one was dead, but the damage was done. The balance that carried over to my new card was $4, and it was going to be at least 2 weeks before the next monthly deposit hit. Glenn helped me start paperwork to get my own separate benefits case set up, food stamps and cash assistance under just my name, independent of Cheryl's household. But the system doesn't move fast. Government offices have one speed, and it is not the speed you need when you haven't eaten. For those 2 weeks, I ate maybe 4 or 5 times total. Tate snuck me food when he could, but his family had their own stuff going on, and I wasn't about to drain their fridge. His mom sent a bag of groceries once, and I made that last as long as I could, but it ran out after a few days. Most of the time, I just drank water and tried to sleep through the hunger. After a while, your stomach just stops growling. You just feel hollow. I'd lay on the bed and stare at the ceiling and just think about how messed up everything was. I lost weight I couldn't afford to lose. There were days I got dizzy standing up. I'd sit in the shower because I didn't have the energy to stand for that long. But I didn't call Mom. I didn't go back. Going back meant going back to all of it, and I'd rather starve on my own terms than eat on hers. Glenn checked on me regularly. He could tell I was struggling, but he didn't push it. He connected me with a food pantry that helped a little, and once my own benefits case finally went through, I got food stamps and cash assistance under my own name. That first trip to the grocery store messed me up in a good way. I stood in the store with my own card, and I just stared at the shelves for like 10 minutes. I could buy whatever I wanted. Nobody was going to take it from me or sell it for cash or scream at me. I bought bread, peanut butter, some canned soup, and a box of cereal. I went back to my apartment and I made a peanut butter sandwich and I sat on the floor and ate it. And I'm not going to lie, I almost cried just from the fact that it was mine and nobody could take it. You know, when you hear about a teenager almost crying over a peanut butter sandwich because it's the first meal in weeks that no one can take from him, that's a gut punch. That's what this kid endured. Meanwhile, I had about $3,000 worth of my own belongings still at Cheryl's house. My laptop, my clothes, personal stuff I'd had since I was a little kid. Things I bought with my own money over years of saving and working. And Cheryl knew that. She was holding my stuff hostage. Glenn told me I should consider just cutting my losses and going no contact. Forget the stuff. Forget her. Just move forward. And I understood his logic. It was the safe play. But nah, that wasn't going to work for me. I earned that stuff. I wasn't about to let her keep it all like trophies from a war she thinks she won. I talked to Glenn about it, and he said since I was still technically a resident, never formally evicted, still had a key, and my belongings were documented through shelter intake paperwork, I had a right to get my property back. He said ideally I'd have a police escort, but given how the local cops handled things last time, that wasn't happening. He told me to take someone with me, only grab what was mine, and document everything. I spent about a week planning. Didn't rush it. Treated it like a project. Tate was in immediately, didn't even hesitate. I told him what I wanted to do, and he just said, tell me when. That's my guy. Here's what I knew. Cheryl had a regular appointment at the DHR office every couple weeks for her SSI review stuff. Always on a weekday morning. Took about 2 hours with the drive. Wade usually went with her. Bree had a part-time gig on weekday mornings at a laundromat across town. So, every couple weeks there was a window where the house was empty. Tate and I drove past the house a couple times on the right days to confirm. Both times empty, driveway clear, house dark. Good enough for me. The next time I knew they were gone, we went in. It was a Wednesday. Wait, no. Thursday. I remember because Tate almost didn't come since he had some school thing on Thursdays. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Tate parked the wagon down the street and we walked up to the back door. I still had my house key because Cheryl never asked for it back, which was the most Cheryl thing ever. She'd steal your money and your future, but forget to change the locks. The key worked. We went in. The house smelled exactly the same. The living room hadn't changed. Wade's recliner in the same spot. Like time stopped the second I walked out. My room was still trashed from when Cheryl ransacked it weeks ago. She hadn't cleaned up or anything. Some of my stuff was on the floor, some shoved into garbage bags in the corner. My laptop was under a pile of clothes in Cheryl's bedroom. Tate and I worked fast. We had garbage bags and 2 backpacks. I grabbed my laptop, my personal stuff, all the clothes that were still mine, and everything else I could identify as belonging to me. We moved through the house quick and quiet. Tate kept checking out the window every couple minutes. At one point, a car drove past slow, and we both froze, but it kept going. But here's where it got interesting. While I was grabbing a few things from the kitchen, I don't know why I even went in there. I think I was looking for a phone charger. I noticed a drawer that was slightly open. Inside was a stack of EBT cards. Not just Cheryl's. Multiple cards with different names on them. I counted at least 4. There were also receipts from transactions that clearly weren't from our household. Different stores, different towns, different dates, all within the same week. This wasn't sloppy. This was organized. She was running a whole operation out of that kitchen drawer. Let that sink in. While this kid was eating charity granola bars, his mother was running a mini empire of fraud, using his existence as the foundation. It's almost impressive in its depravity. I took pictures of everything. The cards, the names on them, the receipts, the drawer itself. Tate watched the door while I documented every piece of evidence I could find. We were out of the house by 9:40 a.m. Nobody saw us. I had my stuff and I had my evidence. The ride back to my apartment was quiet. Tate didn't say anything for a while. Then he looked over and just asked, "So, what's the move?" The move was simple. I went online that afternoon and filed a welfare fraud report on the state's website. And I did not hold back. I reported everything. The cash assistance she'd been pocketing from my EBT card for over 3 years. The lie about me paying rent to qualify for more benefits. The food stamp trading and selling, dates, amounts, descriptions of what I'd seen. The other people's EBT cards sitting in her kitchen drawer with names that weren't hers. The $260 she drained from my card at 5 a.m. the morning after I left. I gave locations, transaction details from the online account history. I described the cards I found and uploaded the photos I took. All of it. Everything I had. Then I talked to Glenn. He helped me file a proper report for the assault through the shelter's legal advocate. Not with the local cops who couldn't be bothered to pick up a pen. An actual formal report filed with the county. I described what Wade did, when he did it, and the fact that the local police had been called and done nothing. Glenn had documented my injuries the night I first arrived at the shelter, so there was already a record with timestamps and photos. After everything was submitted, I sat in my apartment and I waited. The thing is, paperwork revenge doesn't give you that instant release. You just sit there knowing that somewhere in some government office, someone is reading what you wrote and pulling up records, and you wait and hope somebody actually does something with it. Tate came over that night with a bag of chips and 2 sodas. We sat on the floor of my apartment and just hung out. He didn't ask me how I was feeling. He just talked about normal stuff. School, some girl he was talking to, a video he saw online that was apparently the funniest thing ever created by human beings. I watched it later and it was just a cat falling off a table, but whatever. And for like an hour, I felt like a regular kid just hanging out with his friend on a random night. That was probably the best hour I'd had in months. About 6 weeks later, I got a letter from DHR. Official notice about actions taken on the case tied to my name. Cheryl's public assistance had been suspended due to an active fraud investigation stemming from my report. Every single benefit tied to her household except her SSI had been frozen pending review. The $500 a month in cash assistance, the $350 in food stamps, her Medicaid coverage, all suspended. That's over $850 a month plus full health insurance, wiped out because she spent 3 years stealing from her own kid and thought nobody would ever do anything about it. What probably helped? My case was that Chloe at the DHR office had already flagged my file for review after she saw what was going on. So when my fraud report came in a few weeks later with photos, transaction histories, and descriptions of the EBT card stash, it wasn't some random anonymous tip. It was the second red flag on the same case. That's the thing about paper trails. You can lie to your kid. You can lie to the cops. You can lie to everyone in your little town, but you can't lie to transaction records. Every swipe, every ATM pull, every dollar she spent while her son went hungry. All of it was just sitting there in a database, waiting for someone to actually look. A week after the letter, Glenn called me. He had an update. The assault report I'd filed was still being processed. The county was looking into it, but nobody had knocked on Wade's door yet. That part was frustrating. But here's what did happen. When DHR opened their fraud investigation into Cheryl's benefits, it brought attention to the household in a way nobody in that house expected. My report mentioned the EBT cards, the selling, the suspicious spending. The county sent someone out for a home visit, and when they showed up, Wade was home. I don't know exactly what went down, but whatever they saw was enough to call law enforcement. Wade got picked up on possession charges. Not minor stuff either, enough that bail was set higher than anything he could pull together. So Wade was gone, not because of my assault report directly, that was still working through the system, but because the fraud investigation kicked over a rock he happened to be sitting under. The possession charge is what actually put him in a cell. Glenn said the assault charge was still pending and the county hadn't dropped it, so that was still coming. You gotta love the accidental 2-for-1 here. Sometimes justice finds its own path, you know? I heard through the grapevine because again, small town, that Cheryl was falling apart. Everything collapsed within about 2 months and she had nobody left to lean on. Bree was apparently scrambling to help, but Bree had been following Cheryl's lead her entire life. She wasn't exactly equipped to suddenly become the stable one. Part of me expected to feel guilty, but I don't feel guilty, not even a little. This woman looked at her own son, a kid who spent his entire childhood wanting nothing more than a real family, and saw a paycheck. She stole from me for years while I went to school hungry, let her boyfriend put his hands on me, and watched it happen. She didn't want a son. She wanted a direct deposit with legs. And the second that deposit figured out what was going on, the whole thing came crashing down. Tate still comes over a couple times a week. We play games on my laptop and eat food that I bought with money nobody took from me. His mom still sends food sometimes. That family did more for me without a single conversation about it than Cheryl did in 3 years of supposedly raising me. Gil gave me extra shifts at the gas station since I've got more free time now that I'm not walking on eggshells in somebody else's house. I'm saving up again for real this time. Every dollar goes into an account that only I can access. I'm in my own apartment now. There's food in my fridge that I'm allowed to eat. My laptop is sitting right here on the table, the same one I bought years ago. Got my stuff back, got a lock on the door, and nobody else has a key. And Cheryl? She finally knows what it feels like to have everything pulled out from under her while somebody else sleeps fine. The difference? She earned every single bit of it. This kid, barely 16, faced down absolute betrayal, starvation, and violence. And he didn't burn it all down. He did the smart, hard thing. He filed paperwork. And it worked. If you're out there, going through something remotely similar, please know, there are people like Glenn, friends like Tate. You just have to get yourself to the door. After that, it gets better. Now, I'm curious what you all think about this. Given everything Cheryl did, the years of theft, the emotional and physical abuse, should the state actively pursue every single dollar she stole from that EBT card, or is losing her benefits and her boyfriend to jail a satisfying enough end? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to hear what you do.